right where you are. You're sitting in an electrical matrix of energy beyond belief, or most human conception. You'd be surprised to know how much knowledge and communication can be carried on its wave.
Welcome to Mind Scritcher for reframes that hit the spot. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today we are going to talk about the importance of not becoming the monster that hurt you. There's a kind of pain that doesn't just hurt you emotionally. It tempts you to become someone you were never meant to be. It's the kind of pain that changes the way you see people and yourself. Not because someone hurt you privately, but because they tried to destroy your identity publicly. Narcissistic abuse and smear campaigns don't just attack your reputation. They attack your identity. They make you want to defend yourself endlessly, prove your innocence, expose the people who hurt you, and sometimes hurt them back. And if you're not careful, you can slowly become consumed by the very thing that wounded you. In this episode, I want to talk about the part of healing nobody really discusses. How to survive the betrayal without losing your empathy, your humanity, or yourself in the process, because after everything I went through, I realized something. You can go through life as yourself, or you can go through life like them. The most confusing aspect of a smear campaign as the result of narcissistic abuse is realizing people who don't know you suddenly have a lot of opinions about you. The psychology behind it is actually quite simple, though. The people, comedically referred to as flying monkeys, that are easily recruited to participate in a smear campaign can easily fall into three categories, sometimes all three at once. The first one is they simply want to belong and might even fear having the same thing done to them by your abuser and their flying monkeys. These are not strong-minded people. They fear standing alone, so they join a cause they really shouldn't just for the sake of belonging. Someone tells them what to think, and they just think it. They don't question it, and even if confronted with evidence, they don't change their minds. 2, they don't feel so great about themselves, and the only way they can seem to rectify this is to tear someone else down. Simply put, they believe those things about you because they want to. It makes them feel better about themselves to believe horrific things about you, as it allows for a stark comparison between the two of you, even if that comparison is a figment of their imagination. The third category is the most compassionate. It's easier for them to believe what was said about you than to believe the person saying it is abusive. Look, abusers do not walk about with cloven hooves and fangs. In fact, they mostly appear quite charismatic and loving. Their slander is usually masked as concern, or they pretend to be your victim. They prey upon the empathy of others, and they have had their entire lives to perfect their manipulation tactics. If you grew up in church, you've seen this many times. It happened every time someone added so-and-so and their drinking problem to the prayer chain. Sure, they want the congregation to pray for them, but they didn't need to mention their addiction, real or imaginary. It's the perfect opportunity to gossip while feigning concern, though. Some people are very quick to believe that simply because that person has not abused them, they must not abuse anyone. But make no mistake, flying monkeys don't always know they are being recruited as pawns to camouflage the abuser. Yes, the flying monkey's purpose is to join in on destroying your humanity, but they also serve another important purpose to the abuser. They give the abuser someone to blame should the abuser be exposed. I didn't do it. I didn't say those things. I didn't call your employer and make false accusations. They did. The smear campaign and gang stalking is not just an assault on your identity. The goal is complete public destruction of your humanity. If you've already experienced this or are currently experiencing this, you plainly see the fallout. Strangers believe false narratives about you. Mutual friends disappear. They might have even stalled your professional opportunities by way of defamation. You are unable to defend yourself because every attempt to explain yourself makes you look crazy. Another part of the smear campaign aimed at pushing the idea you are mentally unstable. You become hyper-focused on proving your innocence because that is only natural. It's only natural to stick up for yourself. After all, smear campaigns do not just cost you a few acquaintances. They cost your stability, your mental health, your physical health, your self-esteem, and even your professional opportunities and support system for a long period of time. I'm going to get really real here and talk about how this can be the perfect breeding ground for vengeance. I want to extend some grace first because, like I said previously, it's only natural to want to swing back when someone hits you, especially when it wasn't justified. This isn't about judgment. This is about healing and moving forward. I'm never going to tell you your anger isn't justified in this scenario. In fact, I would go so far as to call your anger sacred in this situation. It is a clear indicator a line has been crossed in the worst of ways. Therefore, a lesson needs learned and a change needs to be made. But the lesson and the change is an inside job. You don't want this anger to turn into vengeance, even though vengeance can arise from very reasonable desires, such as wanting your name cleared, wanting your abusers exposed, wanting your abusers held accountable, wanting people to see the truth. I stumbled across a GoFundMe for someone who had participated in a smear campaign against me. Someone who had never even had a conversation with me before helping destroy my reputation. Many years had gone by, but I was shocked by what I saw. This person looked 20 years older than they should have. They were battling cancer and they were struggling financially and struggling to raise just $3,000 to help with these financial pressures. Memories flashed back in my mind about this person and how they didn't know me, yet they joined in with my abuser in decimating my humanity. A series of events lasting several years where it was like I had to crawl out of the pits of hell on my belly across broken glass while people I loved that I thought loved me back figuratively curb stomped me in the back of the skull. And this person joined in. This person kicked me repeatedly while I was already down, and I had never done anything to them. My pain, humiliation, grief, confusion, and devastation was not just a goal for this person, but a source of entertainment. I stared at the screen for a long time in silence. I thought long and hard for a few minutes about sending this person a message, and not a very nice one. I thought, she made it clear to anyone with ears that could hear what she thought about me. Well, now's my chance to tell her all about her. I stopped myself before I could even click the chat icon to write whatever I wanted to say. I took a step back and I took a long look at myself, at her, and the whole situation. What sort of justice could I possibly receive from doing that I haven't already received? I'm no longer in an abusive relationship. My abuser and the flying monkeys would have to go wildly out of their way and expose themselves to tamper with my life today. So much time has gone by that the truth of who I really am outlived all of the lies. I'm married to someone I'm madly in love with rather than afraid of. Together we have a beautiful family. My health is no longer a constant battle due to chronic stress. I'm no longer struggling emotionally, physically, socially, financially, spiritually, or professionally. In fact, in spite of all the responsibility I have in my life has never felt more stable, peaceful, and full of love. What could I possibly gain from kicking this person while they are down? Would it give me any sort of satisfaction? Maybe, for a moment, until I looked at myself in the mirror and realized how ugly my reaction was. Would it undo the pain and loss I suffered? No. Would it rewrite history? No. Would it make this person realize how monstrous they had been to a stranger? Doubtful. Is that the kind of person I want to be? Absolutely not. The truth is, I have every reason to be grateful. Not only is my abuser not in my life, but my abuser unintentionally exposed everyone not conducive to health, wealth, love, and happiness. I have the beautiful life I have today because those people are not a part of it and not in proximity to it. I'm no longer surrounded by people eager to sabotage someone else's peace and forward movement for the plot. And on top of all of that, I can now recognize those characteristics in other people long before they can do any damage. And while I was thinking about this from every angle, it hit me. This was their ultimate goal. It was to dehumanize me completely and refurbish me into a monster. The kind of person that lacks empathy and kicks people when they're down. The kind of person that relishes in the suffering of others. The goal was to trap me in a psychological prison of bitterness. I refuse. I refuse to let them win. I refuse to live in the shadow of what they did to me. I refuse to build my identity around pain. I refuse to view my empathy as a weakness. I refuse to conflate my softness with a lack of safety. I refuse to allow what happened to harden my heart. The power to take my grace and compassion from me is a power only I can grant, and I grant it to no one. I forgive it. I forgive all of it. And that doesn't mean I give permission or what they did was okay. It means I don't need them to grant my freedom from it. I grant it to myself. I do not allow these people to have power over me for another second in this life. I got my wallet. I pulled out my card, and I made a donation. No words spoken. I believe one of the greatest victories after abuse is remaining someone you can still recognize in the mirror and to be proud of the person you see looking back at you. Because after everything that happened, I realized something. I still get to live life as me. But they have to live life as themselves.